The Catholic tradition insists that the reason that anything exists at all, the reason there's something rather than nothing, is that God loves it. Everything that exists is held in being by love. Catholicism and the intellectual life are so closely interwoven in so many ways that it's hard to choose one thing to say or to begin by saying. But if I had to choose one, it would be the sacramental principle, which is so central to Catholicism and, it seems to me, is at the root of the whole of the intellectual life. And by the sacramental principle, I mean what is always and everywhere true must be noticed, accepted, and celebrated somewhere, sometime. That we have to attend to what is in front of us to be known, to be perceived. If that's true, and if the standard theological shorthand for talking about the love of God at the root of all that exists is grace, then what we're saying is that everything exists because it's engraced. Therefore, to see anything in its depth, in its truth, to grasp the full reality of anything that exists, is to glimpse the work of grace. It's to see the love of God actively at work. There's a man named Friedrich von Hugel, whom I think is one of the most authentically Catholic figures of the 20th century. Despite his German-sounding name, he was in England. And in 1901, he was invited to give a lecture to a Christian student organization at Oxford. One of the things von Hugel says in that very interesting lecture that must have shocked his presumably earnest young Christian hearers was to ask a rhetorical question. The question he asked was, who would you say is the most authentic example of asceticism in the 19th century, the century that had just ended? And he answered his own question by suggesting that the single strongest example of that powerful and important virtue in the Christian life was Charles Darwin. Must have shocked, as I say, these young Christian gentlemen who were attending his lecture. But von Hugel went on to say that here was Darwin, this obviously immensely gifted and energetic person, who systematically subordinated all of that energy and all of that imagination and all of that creativity, all of that attentiveness to the systematic, painstakingly careful study and comparison of the varieties of barnacles and the shapes of pigeons' beaks. That asceticism is about training oneself to see what is there, not what you hoped would be there or feared would be there, wished would be there or dreaded might be there, but to see simply what is there. I like to say that asceticism is learning to not look in the mirror long enough that you might look out the window. That instead of looking at oneself all the time, at one's own hopes and dreams and desires, that one looks at what's there. One sees what is there. That's the heart of the intellectual life. The intellectual life is about coming to grips with what is. The multitude of ways that different sciences and different disciplines bring their methods and resources to bear on the study of what is in front of them. So, if we're going to talk about the Catholic intellectual life, we're talking about a result of Catholic insistence on the principle of sacramentality. It's because we believe that to see anything is to see grace. The intellectual life is not simply an aspect of Catholicism, It is a necessary and essential part of the life of Catholicism. And if you have a university which is both genuinely Catholic and genuinely a university, then it holds together a way of living and a way of being loved. It holds together the life of grace and the life of the intellect.